welcome back to the SBP podcast, Mobile Filmmaking. I'm your host, Susie Botello, and you are listening to episode 118. Hey, I'm here with Ross Perkins. Ross Perkins is in Sydney in Australia, and he is an award winner and a premierist. Ross premiered his film, Madhouse. And if that name means anything, just wait till we talk about that film, which he directed, acted in, and edited, and then premiered it at the International Mobile Film Festival in San Diego in 2019. It was the last hurrah before COVID.
Oh, the
Hi,
last
Ross.
one. Oh.
Yeah, right after that. I mean, it was an incredible. Remember the ending of the festival at the end of the award ceremony, that big roundabout applause and everybody was screaming. You would have thought, it was a concert. It was fantastic. It was so much fun, and I couldn't wait to get to the next one. And then 2020 came.
Wow, it ruined everything.
It really did. Not the festival, you guys. Ross, how have you been?
I've been wonderful. I've been keeping safe, and my loved ones are all safe, which is the most important thing to me.
Sure.
And in the quiet times, just trying to be as creative as I can. And been writing a lot. I haven't been able to make a second film, but I've done a few short films in between lockdowns. So that's always been a little stressful. But yeah, in the end, things have slowly come together.
Well, Ross, I have to thank you publicly now. First of all, Happy New Year, because it's still January. So
yeah, ditto.
Happy New Year.
To you too.
Yeah, thank you. The best thing about 2022 is that we will have a film festival.
Yes.
We just finished the film submissions, and you are one of the judges sitting on the panel for the short films.
Yeah.
Have you? I know you've been a judge before, but you've never been a judge in our film festival, and I know you're looking forward to it. Do you have a word for the filmmakers who submitted their films?
I can't wait to see them. I can't wait. I'm drooling. I can't wait to see a bunch of films come my way. Short features, bring them on.
Right. Well, you're only going to be watching the shorts, and there's going to be quite a number of them. So you're probably going to appreciate that you're only watching the shorts and not features too.
Yeah, perfect.
But the great thing about it is that our listeners, we're going to give them a good idea of Ross Perkins' background and where he comes from and why he's going to make such a great judge. But also, we're going to kind of, I was telling Ross, I'd really like to talk about one of the things I know that you guys listening are going to really going to get something out of it, basically. And that is how to build your tribe so that you can make films. Because there's more to it than just, obviously, grab a smartphone, right? Everybody says it. Just grab your smartphone and start shooting. It's like, well, if that was that easy. Yes, it's an easier, device to work with as far as camera. But also one of the things that I really loved about Madhouse, Ross, is the fact that you used, if you would have had a DSLR or a larger camera, the way that you used the smartphone, you couldn't get that many people involved behind the camera. And now you guys listening are going, why would you want to get people, like a bunch of people involved behind the camera? Well, Ross, I'd like you to explain that because, in our previous podcasts with you, we were talking about some of the scenes where the actors themselves had to handle the camera. And you were one of those actors.
Mm-hmm.
And directors. So one of the best benefits about using your iPhone, right, or it could be an Android, whatever, is the fact that you're not really afraid of handing it to an actor or someone who's never handled the camera and say, here, shoot this scene with us.
Yeah, they're very user-friendly. But also, I kind of wrote it into the story as well, where they're each filming each other, and they don't.
The phone itself was one of the leading actors.
Yeah. So the phone is the catalyst for the story. So it's told from the perspective of the smartphone, and then that allowed me just to and then within the story, each character holds the phone at a certain point in time, and they're filming each other. So that was very economically beneficial.
And it worked out well. I mean, very well, because it wasn't so much like shaky camera footage.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I mean, sometimes it is, but
yeah, sometimes it is, certainly.
It's. I mean, like, yeah, there are times when you guys are like chasing each other and things like that, but it's not nauseating, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Some films, yeah, with some films you get that, but with this one, it was done precisely with good reason, to be expected type of a thing. And people are really engaged in the film. It's not that you forget that it's filmed with an iPhone, because obviously it is, and that's part of the movie. But I think what happens is that you forget you're watching a movie. That's the whole point in your film, that you become a part of this journey. Why don't you share a little bit about what the film was about, by the way?
So my elevator pitch has always been 3 drug addicts hold a family hostage in their mansion. So that was the conventional story. And then as a choice, I saw a lot of home invasion films, and I found that they follow a pretty had a really strong formula to them. So it's always seemed to be that the family was estranged. Strangers would come in, disrupt their lives, and then the house would burn down. The house always burned down. And then the family were closer for it. And I thought, well, I'll try and do the inverse of that. So have it be that the family's already close. And then when these addicts come in, one archetype I've always never really liked was the idea that, bad guys as bad guys. To me, the bad guys don't really know that they're bad. They think they're right. So I wanted to focus on that. So kind of flip the perspective a bit. So start with the family, get their perspective, and then get to know the bad guys a bit more and figure out that they're just people as well. And then I'll be honest, in one of the original drafts, in the third act, the house burnt down. But I didn't know how to do that. So, and then I had a wonderful friend of mine that said, look, if you can't afford to burn a house down, don't do it. Not in an independent film. Do what you can do.
We should also note that this was your parents' house, so there was no way you're going to burn your parents' house.
Yeah. Too many memories to go up in flames. Yeah. Dad would kill me. I'm glad that I listened to his advice. And the other one he gave me, which was gold, is he said, do the conventional film that everyone has seen in the first and second act, but do it your way. And then in the third act, go somewhere completely different that no one has ever seen before. So I aimed for that in the third act.
I'm trying to put into words what it's like, but I'm going to repeat this from the first, episode that we did together. So I'm going to share with our listeners what my experience was when I first pushed play on your film. So as I'm reviewing the film, right, got submitted, feature film, and I'm like all excited, cool. And I start to watch the film. And now remember, the premise to this film three drug addicts, break into a house, hold a family hostage. Well, damn. It was so realistic. I literally thought, Ross, that someone had pulled a prank on me, and that someone had literally committed a crime, and they had filmed it with an iPhone, and they were going, ha, there's this film festival accepting movies shot on smartphones. Boy, we're going to give that festival a run for their money because we're going to pretend this is a movie. Kind of like the was it Robert De Niro or one of those, the 15 Minutes movie?
Yeah. Wow.
The guy comes in from Russia and he's filming everything, and they're filming their murders and things like that. That's what I thought up until about maybe literally 20 minutes in, where I kind of went, wait a minute, okay, all right, I think this is a real film. But I literally kind of freaked out a little bit at first, because I thought, you wouldn't put it past someone to do something like that. You just never know. I mean, if they're going to put it on YouTube, right? Yeah. Might as well send it to a film festival. I'm not giving anybody ideas. I'm just saying, God, that was crazy. And please don't ever do that to me.
Yeah, I think it also sounds like a really stupid thing to do as well. Like you're going to get caught. Most definitely. There's a little more processing that goes involved with identifying people who submit films, right? Yeah. But Madhouse is as crazy and as chaotic as it sounds. And one of the things that you were talking about earlier was that the characters become so realistic, right? That, people that you, even though they're the bad guys, that you kind of sympathize with them. And just as you start to think, because in some movies they do that, somebody starts out as bad and then you sympathize with them and then they end up being the good person, right? Yeah.
But as soon as you start to feel that, Ross will twist you up into a pretzel and say, you're going to now hate them again. And you're going to see the bad person here again. And you're going to see how literally stupid they are at the same time. Like, wow, like you blame them, but you can't blame them. But then you kind of go, and then you go, oh, hell no.
Yeah. Look, I think I shot it probably 2 years ago now. Maybe 3. So it's 2 years since the festival. It was 2018.
Yeah. So you're doing what I do. So everything before COVID or everything after COVID doesn't count. It gets erased when you're going back in time.
Yeah, that's exactly it, actually.
So it's literally been, 4 years now?
But
we don't count the COVID years.
No, I don't think any of us will. I reckon when this is all over, we'll just go back to 2020. Pretend it didn't happen. It'll be a blip. But I know that creatively I can separate myself from it. And I liked how I'm proud of the work that I've done. I don't think I'll go that dark again in terms of the themes and the story and all that. I think I got that out of my system with Madhouse.
Well, you were one of the protagonists in the story, and you went all out as an actor. You lost a lot of weight to look
really badly, by the way. I did it. It was only 1 meal a day, which is really silly. I had no help. I really irresponsible and stupid. Actually, again, enough time has passed for me to say that.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, still, it's a lot of actors do that. They'll gain weight. They'll lose weight. They'll do things that, I can't remember. I heard of one actor who said he asked the dentist to knock a tooth out or something like that for his part.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You're crazy, Ross. You're crazy.
Yeah. Well, if you're doing filmmaking, you kind of have to be, actually.
It takes a special...
Yeah, special kind of crazy. But it's, I mean, like the root of it too is when I first was writing it and decided to play one of the drug addicts, I just aesthetically didn't look like a drug addict. So I thought there's a specific look that it comes with that level of illness. So I was chasing that, and I had reference pictures, and then the makeup as well.
Well, everything, your mannerisms, the way you moved, the way you spoke.
Yeah, that was I wanted each of the, I'll call them junkies. I wanted each of the junkies to be different. So originally I was doing a lot of experimenting with putting on an Australian sort of twang. But then I thought, and pretty close to the last minute, I thought, look, just to differentiate, like just to give him some sort of intelligence, I sort of didn't want to fall into caricature too much. So decided to play
like overacting.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I could have done that, so or risked doing that. So I thought I'll play the character a bit more towards myself at the last, but that was a last minute decision. And I remember also really vividly a lot of the scene. I didn't do a scene until like the 5th or 6th day of shooting, and I remember before the first scene that I shot, being so impressed with all the other actors, and then before I had to do my first scene, I think I was just getting into character, and I caught my reflection in a picture frame or something, and I told myself, don't be the one to ruin your own movie. Like don't be the worst actor in your movie. You need to step it up. So, that helped.
Yeah, one of the things that I tell people, and I had been telling people, and I will continue to tell people, actors love to play. And so, don't wait around for someone to cast you in their game, right? In their movie. Yeah. And instead of doing that, start making your own, this is a little segue into what I really want to talk about. Not that I don't want to talk about all this other stuff. I'm sure we'll get back to it, but the tribe, the people that you're building. So you've worked on as an actor. This was the first film that you actually filmed, right?
Yes. Yeah. I've done a couple of shorts, but yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I've done a couple of shorts, but at least one of those shorts was me. So I did. Right. I played 2 versions of myself. So I did the whole split screen thing.
Oh, that's right.
And then filmed that. That was a good exercise, and it gave me a little bit of confidence for Madhouse going into it, feeling like I think I could do this.
And how long was that film?
Oh, it's about 5 minutes, I think.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this film that Ross made was like, what, 90 minutes, 89 minutes?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, but it was the first feature that you had done.
Yeah.
And you really sunk into it. Now, where was I going with that? So
the tribe.
Hold on. So while you were experiencing working on these other films, plus your entire experience in acting, because you are also or were a theater actor as well.
Yeah.
And you started to meet people in the filmmaking. You networked, right? And you worked with people, and you had friends, and some of you had a lot in common, right?
Yes, totally.
Yeah. And so when you said, I have the desire to make this feature film, you had already had some experience with certain people from your the couple of short films you've made in the other experiences that I just mentioned. And you first looked, where did you look? Did you look first to them, or did you go looking outside of your network first? How did you go to get the people involved, and not just in the acting, but also in the in the sound, the set, all that stuff, like Kimberly Hart,
yes, absolutely.
all those people.
Yeah. Look, I think so. I had the idea for the story when I was on a film set, and I thought, I think I can do this, and I thought I could do it independently, like it wouldn't require any money. Like I could do it guerrilla style, and I thought, well, if you can do it, may as well just do it. And then from there, I think I started straight away with picturing who I would cast in it, and a lot of that was actors that I'd worked with that I liked, or actors that I knew. So Aaron I knew personally because we worked together. He played Bryce, the head junkie. And
say his last name just to give him shout out.
Oh, Aaron Patrick.
Okay.
So yeah, he was. So we worked together, and he told me a story. And look, he's such a big personality, and he's a good-hearted, great guy. And we were talking about work, and he got pulled into a meeting, and the meeting, he was in trouble for doing something, you know.
Wait, one of your crew members and actors was in trouble for something? What?
Well, he's in trouble with it's something silly, like the workplace would have just been picking on him a bit. And I said, oh, how did this meeting go? And he said, oh, it was easier. They sat me down, said they're disappointed, and I started crying, and then that was it. And I went, wait, what? And he goes, yeah, I do acting, and I just started crying on him, and then they got weird, and then they ended the meeting. I was like, this is fantastic. and I say, anyone who can do that must be a fantastic actor. And if he can bring himself to that, he's got to be perfect. So that was it. I was sold on Aaron, and I was like, that's all I needed. And then,
that was his audition.
Yeah, pretty much actually. And then Jess, I knew was a working actor, and again, lovely to be around and a good friend, and so I just asked her. And then Matt, who played the dad Dale, I'd worked, and Derbler as well, who played Natalie. I'd worked with in a play, and they were just lovely to be around. And that play was very much like in the English tradition of Peter O'Toole and
nice.
Or in the sense that when I say that, I mean when we're in the wings, we're getting drunk. So we really all got to know each other. So that was great. And I knew that they were my kind of people, so that was lovely. That experience. Then the only wild card was Tequila Rathbone. And I'd written this 18-year-old girl character, but I didn't know any 18-year-old girl actors. So I had to go hunting on all the casting networks for that. And I got very lucky. And I had auditions. In all honesty, not many people turned up. But Tequila just had it's a weird, you always hear about, it's a weird thing with casting because there's just a quality. For one, she looked like a mix of the Derbler and Matt, like she could look like their child, but right. Also there was just, she could act. I knew that from the tapes that I saw, and it's like, well, that's fantastic, I can work with that. And then there's other quality which you just can't identify, but you're like, this is going to work. So I kind of chased her down after she showed an interest. But she was lovely. She was great. I was very lucky, actually, very lucky.
And then how did you get the people to do the audio? Because that was a whole other, I know it's like a whole other conversation, but
no, it's
it was important to you.
Yeah, well, I'm very lucky. I have a mentor, and he said that audio is half the film, so that's an important lesson. And there was a audio.
You wouldn't have made it into our film festival. I could say that now, right? You wouldn't have made it into the festival if the audio wasn't good, though.
I consider the audio on par with a 70s movie.
Yeah,
like it's fine. It's not Star Wars.
Yes.
It's
no,
fine.
It can't be, and it's not supposed to be. It
That's
has to
right.
be fitting.
Yeah,
but it
so
has
I
to
got
be.
Lucky on that one.
Yeah,
yes.
But you still have to hear the people, and there has to be an aspect of quality to it. Again, it has to fit.
Yes.
But it can't be, super bad.
But I learnt so many lessons on that. I had a technician that I saw who was a friend of a friend, and she was teaching at a film school, and she invited me into her audio suite, and she just gave me a list of everything that I need and how to do it and what I need. And then I talked to a technician, and the technician, I remember, tapped out at the last minute. Just something came up. So I ended up doing it. Now the good news is I knew how to use the equipment, and because I had that, she gave me that wonderful education, and then I could really quickly put it into practice. And it looked, you want to talk about tedious? It was really tedious. And one of the things that I ended up doing was so each actor had to clap to sync their material. And the very best that I could do was tell the actors, look, when you're feeling that energy, just clap it out, just feel that, and then that's going to let you know that we're filming and be energized, but also it's 100% just for the, for the edit. But that was the best I could do, hand on heart. That is the best that I can do with what I had.
The film came from a true story, but the true story was too gory, believe it or not.
And
this film isn't really gore, but it does have a little bit of it. It's some excruciating parts, of course. I say of course, but I mean what you would expect in a home invasion movie, with drug addicts, junkies that you call them. It's excruciating at some points.
Yeah, I think that was. I wanted to. In all honesty, horror's not my favorite genre. Now, keep in mind, I grew up with 90s action movies, so that was sort of my go-to. And my favorite horror is The Shining and The Exorcist, and they're pretty much and Rosemary's Baby's in there. And I sort of liked that aesthetic where it's the violence is
supernatural type of.
That is true. They
horror.
are. Yeah. And I couldn't. Madhouse isn't that. But in terms of the violence in those movies, the violence is really matter of fact. It just happens. And then you witness it, and you just have to deal with it. And I kind of...
That's Quentin Tarantino style, is that it just happens.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to do with Madhouse. I kind of just wanted to have it be that this is what we're going to do. Now, we're, move on. Like the fingernails, I'm surprised actually worked out as... I'm proud with how that worked out. For one, that I didn't pull out a real one, and then two, that looked somewhat convincing, which is cool because that could have gone the other way. Then look, one other thing. The
scene in the bathroom.
Yeah, look, it's little things, but I remember because thinking that this is it's just a bunch of actors making a movie with their iPhone. I want to have each scene have some sort of, not every scene obviously, but I wanted to have these scenes that are almost like stunts to kind of keep you on edge. Like even so far as to say that scene where I'm having my head shaved, like in real time, that was I've never had a shaved head before. So I didn't know how it was going to turn out. But at least there's something that's a little on edge going on. And that kind of ties back to the fingernails and the waterboarding and all the other grisly stuff, just to have these little bit of stunts, but always in service of the story. So, driving the story forward.
Oh, we'll see. But here's the thing, Ross. There are a lot of films, independent films, that are made out there, not with an iPhone, on a budget, right? And they don't have that edge of your seat. Where the people in the audience are literally on the edge of their seat. I mean, you got to see people, and you sat all the way in the back. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, you sat in the back because you wanted to see the reactions.
Yeah, I
Like,
got some good
people were
ones.
going to laugh at the right time and scream or kind of, you know. How was that for you? Did it hit on key pretty much?
Yeah, it did. It kind of, that was cool. Yeah. I mean, I know that it's not a feel-good movie, and I deliberately put humor. I always wanted to have humor in it, and I wanted that humor there to kind of give the audience a release, and also just movies that I like. Like, there are some movies that are too grim for me. And I knew that I could easily do that. So it's important to me to have some sort of humor in it. And, it's not hilarious, but I think it's enough just to allow the audience some sort of release. Like, a good example is the halfway through the movie is the party scene. And there's all the chaos that goes around. And the other one is the irony of, to me, for Madhouse is as dark and grim as the story can be. We had such a good time making it. Like, everything was fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, there was no tears or dramas, or no one got hurt, thank God. And although that said, we did leave Matt in the bathtub a bit too long. We had a safe word, and he used the safe word, so, I regret that one. But apart from that, that was great. With the time of our lives, it's fantastic.
And Matt was the
Dale.
the actor who played the father, right?
Yes.
What's his last name?
Matt Jones.
My take on this, though, is, if you've been following the podcast, we've been discussing the story, because that's always my thing to go to, the story. But the story made into a film, you don't have as the audience, right, Ross? You don't have the ability to say, okay, I'm pausing this, like you do when you're reading a book. I'm imagining things, I'm seeing what I want to see, and it's a little personal in that sense, but it's also with your imagination, where you can kind of control that. In a movie, though, in a film, it's like getting into a roller coaster and you're going for a ride. You have no control over what's going to happen. And it's all about how you're going to accept what you're going to feel. And this film, man, I just can't say enough good things about it. We're not talking about a cinematic film like, Lord of the Rings or drama or any of those films. We're talking about a film that was purposely shot with an iPhone. The iPhone is one of the protagonists in the film, almost the main character, but who you think is the protagonist outside of the iPhone ends up not being the protagonist until you watch the end, and I don't want to give that away. But this film it really was a roller coaster, and that's kind of the entertainment of it. The highs and the lows, the edge on your seat, all those things put together are just incredible. And I really, as an observer, Ross, I really feel like, had you not shot it with an iPhone, had you not had people involved who were comfortable with each other, you can get the best this and the best that, but in the end, if these people aren't getting along, right? If they're not in it for the same reason you are, in a way, I just don't think it would have been as successful. Yeah,
totally. I think you're saying about working as an actor and then networking. Networking is a word that I've always had trouble with. I know
I sound so.
I can't. I think consciously I made a choice.
Because you're not really doing that. You're socializing in a way and just kind of feeling each other out for what your interests are.
Like I've seen it happen with, not with friends. I've seen it happen where they met someone that is doing really well, and they don't really get along with them, but they'll
Yeah.
put up with things because they're in a position, and it seldom works out, right? It's so much better if you just organically meet someone that you connect with, and then if you decide to do something together, you know, that's where the luck comes in, actually. But also, if you like doing it and you share a passion, then you'll make friends easily, and if you hit it off and you've become great friends, you'll jump through fire for each other. So that's
And you're learning together. If you learn together, you grow together.
absolutely, totally, and and if you love to be around your friends and you trust each other, it's not a chore. You're doing something that you all love together. And one thing I always found with any kind of collaborations I've had with my friends is that, especially while we're shooting stuff, is we all look at each other and go, why don't we do this all the time? Because it's electric. And it's remembering that feeling, that keeps you invested. And look, it's also, it's work. It is work, but it's fun. It's fun work. It's the best kind of work. And if you share the same vision, it works.
One of the things is that I'm trying to stress in mobile filmmaking, and in any filmmaking in general, really, that, and I think you mentioned this to me maybe in another podcast or maybe having a conversation with you about what brings a good actor to make your film, right? To be a part of your film. And I think, did you tell me that they read the script and heard your pitch or something like that, and that they were really interested in working with it outside of you being just such a great, awesome guy?
Well, I mean, I think I went to them each and told them the story and the idea and how I want to do it. And I was always coming back to, if we could do this tomorrow, why wouldn't we? So that was a big help. And then also I had rules. Like I said, look, I mean, when the cast started to develop, when one followed the other, when people began to say yes, amongst the actors, I said, look, one rule that I got is that you have to respect each other's processes. So, as actors, so one actor won't want to talk to you, and just want to focus on their part. Another one might need to, have a beer or something. I'm just making this up, by the way. Another actor might just have a Coca-Cola or a beer before they do anything. They can do that, and you can't make fun of them. That's kind of the rule. You need to respect each other's way of doing it. And that was always good. Because one thing I didn't want on any set where you're making fun of other people. I think that's not a good way to do it.
It's unprofessional for one thing.
It does happen, but it can easily kind of slip in. And it happens I think that comes from my experience in workplaces. Where you've seen it a million times, where someone's just doing their job and then somebody else will make a crack at them. It's not good. Doesn't set a. It's a small thing. It is. I know that, but it does plant the seed for a toxic environment.
Yeah, and I think we need to kind of, if we're going to grow up in some way, right? Which none of us really want to grow up, but but in one way is to stop judging people in that sense and mocking people. I think that's just, I think the pandemic has taught us to be a little less of that too. Yeah,
and look, in terms of Madhouse, like the whole experience, I never came across it. No one ever said to me, this, that, and the other, and I'm not getting along with that person. And that never happened, not once. And then...
Well, that's what I find about your film so attractive. for this conversation about getting people together that you work well together, and that will help you make better films.
Look, I've met. I have a dream team in my head. So
Nice.
I know who. Sorry, I can't take credit for this. I heard it in an interview. I don't know who the filmmaker was, but somebody said that getting a film crew together is like Ocean's 11.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, and no, but it's so true.
True.
It's like every time making a movie, it's a heist. You're getting who's the best sound guy I got, who's the best camera guy that I know. Like it's that. It's great. So if you've had some sort of experience, like when I say that, I mean like you've met someone who you liked. Yeah. That's all I mean when I say experience. Then and who you can just go to them. Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of my thing too. Of course, that my thing. What I'm trying to say, that you can look for the best this and for the best that, but you still have to kind of play. It's like the dating game in a way, right?
I think that comes organically. I think that comes organically. It's the same way dating does, I guess. Like it's when you meet someone and it's the same thing when you're meeting another actor. Like I remember the other day I was in an audition and me and the other actor just got along really good. You just don't question it. And then one thing you do is you go, oh, hey man, let's stay in touch. So, you got someone to add to the Rolodex. But also, it's a nice person that you like to be around. So, hold on to that. And I think actors, the arts as well, generally is, you can go so much further as a team.
Yeah, in the entertainment industry, in the arts industry and all that, I think people, in the business world, the word like what you were saying before, networking, right? Mm. But I think in the entertainment industry, they do it differently, which is why it probably just sounds weird, right? The word networking, because people naturally socialize.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that everybody has to be a socialite, right, to be in the industry, but at least when you're around people, if you want to grow in the industry, you have to be able to communicate with people. You have to get out of your shell. That's part of acting, right, as an actor.
Well, I think every director, filmmaker should do an acting class. So
yes.
For one, they would give you, if you need it would give you an extra bit of confidence. And then secondly, lets you know how to talk to actors. I
should be in front of the camera. Should play a role in front of a camera, even if it's only a small role. And I think every director should do that. Everyone who's in the industry, as a crew member even, should do that just to get that perspective.
Yeah, with the acting, because communication is really important, but I don't think it's possible to communicate everything. So, you just do your best. But I found that often actors will tell you if they need something. So that's really helpful. But also, as an actor, often the director doesn't tell you anything. And I'm very fortunate in that my acting...
That's nerve-wracking.
Well, I'm lucky because my acting training taught me to direct myself. They said they primed us. They said, you're not always going to get it from a director, so you got to learn to do that. So do it yourself, like prime yourself. Get ready where you need to be yourself. Don't rely on a director to do that. And what that's good for two reasons. One, if you're not getting anything, well, at least you can do your own thing. And if they don't like it, they'll tell you, and you can move from there. So you're bringing something. That's where it's helpful. It gets you started. And Yeah.
But as an actor, you know that if you don't satisfy the director, imposed, you can get cut out of a film.
I think a director will tell you if they don't like what you're doing. They'll tell you. They should, definitely.
Sometimes that just doesn't happen during the production. I've had that experience. Not to me because I'm not an actor.
Yeah.
But I've seen it. I've been on films, worked on films where a character was completely left out, and it had it.
Is that due to the actor or the story? Do you think?
I see. That's what I was saying. It's like, I remember one film I worked on. There was a guy that played a taxi driver that comes to pick up this woman, the protagonist. And he was hilarious, and he really, rocked the scene and everything, and he was really good. He played the part very well, but I think the decision was made in the editing that it didn't really add anything to the story.
Yes, totally.
And so they cut him out.
But it's never because of the actor. That's never...
No.
Because the actor's not doing anything. So there are great actors, like incredible actors. My favorite actor, in fact, is my best friend, and he's not in Madhouse. Like I had to cut him out.
What?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and not only that, there's two other really great actors that I had to cut out, and great performances, and nothing to do with them. It was 110% because of the film. It was slowing scenes down.
I think with this taxi driver though, had he toned down his performance some,
right.
If he would have known that the director just wanted him literally to go and say, "Hi, I'm the taxi driver. Does someone call for a ride?"
Yeah.
All right, let's go. If he would have just done that, I think they would have kept him in.
Right.
Yeah,
that is possible.
He performed really well.
Mm.
But I think that at the end the director was like laughing and having a good time with it too. But I think the director should have kind of said, "Hey, that was great, but can you do this other way just in case as well?"
Yes, that's important. That's important. I remember how much. I don't want to take up too much time. Can I tell you a story that I'll try and make quick?
Totally, tell me a story. Are you kidding me?
So I remember watching. One of my big things is and I'm jealous. I am insanely jealous of actors that have just wonderful faces, like really good character faces. So I'm just jealous of them because I'd love to have one, and I don't think I do. And I remember the first thing that I did when I went to America was I did a short film, and the crew were lovely. Everyone, they're really lovely people. And I saw the headshot of an actor that was playing a father whose child gets killed. And I remember seeing this picture. This guy looked like, he looked like Gene Wilder mixed with the robot in Star Trek, Data.
Oh.
Data.
Yeah.
So he looked like the love child of Gene Wilder and Data. And I was thinking that is such an incredible face. So and I said, "Am I going to?"
Did he have a silver face too?
Yeah, yeah. Well, he did. It was a black and white Polaroid. And I said, "I go look. Can I see this guy act?" And they said, "Yeah, you won't have a scene together, but we'll shoot another scene that you're doing on the same day, so you'll be able to see him do his thing." And I was like, I said, "Well, he looks great." And they said, "Yeah." And they said, "We haven't seen him act, but he looks fantastic, doesn't he?" I was like, "Yeah, great." So I shot my scene that morning, and then I met him, and I was in acting class, so my script was filled with notes. So I was making all these notes, and he came past me, and I got to meet him. And before I could say hi, he goes, "Oh, you're writing on his script, are you?" I was like, "Yeah." And then I was like, "Oh, wow, he showed me,
Nice.
And then he did a scene, and he was sitting at a table, and he's just been told that his child is dead. And I'm in just behind one of the monitors, and then this girl goes up to him and whispers in his ear, and he was horrific. He was the worst actor I've ever seen.
What happened?
he was just bad. He moaned, and it was awful. And I learnt a really strong lesson. And I remember the director was like terrified, just terrified. And then the next day they reshot it with a different actor.
Wow.
But I learnt a lesson from that, which is, you know, actually see somebody act, but don't just cast them straight on their, you know, their picture. You know, see them do what they do.
I was gonna say something about that when you said, you know, the reaction of the director was, yeah, he looks great, right?
Well,
like,
that's the thing. Well, also the fact that the other lesson I learnt was the director didn't say anything, and it's not a reflection, like it's not a slight on them, but I just felt that like the whole thing could have been avoided if the director had jumped in earlier, at the casting level, you know. Yeah, like
that's harsh. That's harsh. That's harsh on everybody, actually. Every actor that had an interaction with him is going, I thought I did pretty good, and now I gotta do that again.
Yeah, that's true. That does happen. But yeah, look, that's the like rarest of the rare. Often it's just because you're getting cut because of timing.
Yeah. Well, wow. I mean, that's just an experience. I've never, out of all the things I've experienced, I've never seen, you know, I mean, this guy was like the protagonist, right?
Yeah.
I've just never experienced where the director doesn't really audition that person well through more than just one scene for that role.
He looked pretty cool, but I think that
okay.
I think that's what they were thinking.
Cast for looks. I thought we were over that, right?
Yeah, I think that's something that needs to go.
Yeah, me too. I think little by little, it is leaving. I think there's lots of conversations happening about, you know, people who don't look like movie stars being, you know, I think there was a conversation going on. I think I saw something about, what's his name that was cast for Spider-Man?
Right. Yeah. Holland.
Yeah, and he was on. Speaking of taxi drivers, but I think it was an Uber or a driver for the car for the movie or whatever it was, that told him, I don't think you're going to get the part. I'll be surprised because of, you know, or something about, you know, his looks not being movie star material for a superhero.
That's rubbish. That's absolutely rubbish.
I know, right? It just sort of right before he went for his audition, you know, and that's kind of another thing too, that you're working on a set and you're working with people who are, you know, famous or whatever, celebrities, and you're on a set and you just got cast as you didn't get cast, but you're a PA or a sound person, or you could be the DP. It doesn't matter. It's just like all of a sudden you feel like starstruck, right, by that person. And that person needs to focus on their lines, you know? And so it was one of the first things that they told me when I went on my first film set was, don't have conversations with the actors, even if you can, or even if they're looking for that, you know, be very mindful when they have the script in their hand. Don't approach them unless it's, you know, work related, basically.
Yeah, I saw an interview with a director of photography who was talking about how, like, he gets it though. Like, he was empathetic. He said, look, you see it, like the actor's got lines to learn, and you know, what to get into a particular headspace. And then you have someone who's on set who wants to have an encounter to go home and look, this is all understandable, I guess. I believe it's understandable. They want to have an encounter with them so they can go home and tell their friends that, you know, hey, I told Johnny Depp to stand here, or, you know, he told me this, that, and the other. But one thing I had learned and it was a big film, there was a guy in charge. He said, look, if everyone knows their role, it's great. If you know what your role is, you'll have a great time. It's when you step out of your role continuously that you'll start to rub against other people. That's when you're in trouble. But he goes, if you know your role, you're going to have a great time. And I think that's something that I've always kind of kept in mind. And then it'll come to you.
That's actually a big movie thing, though. More of a Hollywood thing.
Yeah, look, I think it's knowing your role is important. Like, why are you there? You're there to do this job. And then the stuff will happen organically. It will.
Yeah.
It'll come to you almost. And it's fun.
You never stand around and do nothing.
No,
while people are working.
And you're all in it together. So, it's, you're all doing the same, you're all doing the same job. But the one thing I noticed, like recently I did a shoot where it was this giant nightclub and there was probably about 150 people in this nightclub. And this is before we had another COVID outbreak.
Oh, no.
So this is back when you could. So 6 months ago here. And everyone's in dress up and costumes and being on the other side of it, like seeing actors do their thing. Like I always had this, I guess, like a fantasy of like, oh yeah, if I ever got to be around, all these extras, I'd love to just get amongst it and I'd spend all my time just chatting with everyone and all that. And you just can't. There's too many people. Like you physically cannot, and then you're talking amongst other things as well. Like, you got the director who's just working their bum off, and you don't hear every word they say, right? So you just got to pay all your attention onto that. And there's somebody else coming back and then the direction changes. It does, like, you've done the scene and then more than once. And then they go, look, it's for whatever reason, that camera's not there and this, that, and the other, and you got to do it again. The last thing you can do is, chat and talk to, a room full of 100 people. You can't. You just physically can't.
That's crazy.
So that's one thing I've
That's
learned.
as crazy as a madhouse.
Well, that scene was pretty crazy.
So that's part of, the building your tribe, all these things that we're talking about that a lot of people don't consider are going to happen. But imagine having a group of people that and these things come up. How will they react? Do you, when you're building your crew, do you think like they're going to do what you need them to do and just sort of jump on it, or do you think they're just going to have a fit? Or they're just going to sit around and wait and see how other people fix things, right?
Well, I mean, like with Madhouse particularly, the crew ended up being in the movie, which is very strange.
See, that's what I loved about it. You had the actors sort of being part of the crew at some point.
Yeah.
Because they were holding the camera and taking direction on how to film for the most part. But it was simple with an iPhone. And then you have people in the crew who were actually a part of the film, especially in the party, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. But also, there's a character, Dan, who's played by one of my favorite actors, is my friend Mitch Wright, and he was my first AD. And he's such a talented actor. I was like, look, I gotta get you in there. So. Have that. He's the in the third act. He's the junkie that they live with and hang around.
Oh.
And he's got the odd haircut, which was him taking. Yeah, when I told him, I go, you're a junkie. He goes, I know what to do, and he had this horrible mullet. But he was there from the beginning. Like he's behind the camera in every shot.
Wow.
And he shot.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he's the He shot one scene because it was just delegating. I couldn't. I needed to prep something downstairs and I couldn't be upstairs. And I thought, look, I'm gonna make a judgment call and get Mitch to film a scene without me. Let's let it, and then I'll watch the playback and see if we like it. So there's a scene that he directed, and it's great. It's in the flick.
What you just talked about, everything you just said was not at all typical in any other film set.
Well, second unit is what that was. Like getting a second unit, getting someone else to film. That is
Yeah.
that they do that. And I knew that.
No,
as
but I
well.
mean, what you
But
just said about but usually a second unit takes place at a different location.
yes, that is true. Yeah.
Yeah. But would you just, I mean, that whole piece, right? That you have your first AD and then he gets a role in the film.
Yes.
And then, of course, he's filming something for you. You know, that whole thing is not common at all in filmmaking, in a film production.
Yeah, it worked. Like, I mean, I'd do it 100.
It totally worked.
And it certainly worked with Mitch. And I'd do it 100 times with Mitch. And then Kate Heffernan, she was there for the beginning with Kim as well. And Kim's in there, in Madhouse.
Yeah.
And likewise, she's behind every scene. Yeah, I mean, also I wanted to, consciously, I heard a great bit of direction from a director that said, and all I had to do was walk from, like, down a trail, and the director goes, look, all you got to do is just walk from here to here, but go through something in your head, so at least you have a purpose. And he goes, the camera will love it. You know, we don't need to know what you're thinking, but just have something that influences why you're moving somewhere. It'll make all the difference. So that was one thing that I was really mindful of. I wanted all the junkies to be doing something, not just sitting there, not just being extras or whatever. Like, I wanted them to all have some sort of quirk, and have them discover it themselves. Trust them to do that. And that's something that I'm carrying over into a few other things that I've made since. Just if somebody's in a shot, I want them there for a reason. I just don't want them there to fill up space.
And that also goes for the people that are involved in your production, who are doing this or doing that, where everybody felt you showed gratitude to all of them, of course, because, you know, you say, hey, thank you, and all this stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
But
and I meant
course,
every little drop of it.
Yeah, but it shows.
Forever grateful.
It shows in the way that, you know, hey, you're here for a reason, and we need you. Yeah. And that's also people take pride in that when it comes, especially in filmmaking. I've met countless people who have said, you know, I worked on this movie, I worked on that movie. You never saw me because I was behind the scenes, you know, but I worked on this movie, you know, I worked on this set. I remember meeting one guy one time that got to build the stage for a band, you know what I mean? And Men at Work. It was Men at Work. And he was like showing off like crazy. I got to build the stage, you know. He was working with wood and stuff, right? I got to help build a stage for Men at Work, you know. And he was super excited. I was just a little teenager at the time, and I was like, oh my God, that is so cool, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, but people take pride in things like that. And I think sometimes you know, you don't realize, because sometimes you're putting a film together, you're putting your crew together, and you're thinking about the needs to fill the spots that you need people to help you with, to make it happen and so forth. But for them, it can be a real privilege, you know, and they take pride in it later.
Like, I always felt that, it's also my nature. I do kind of believe that, you know, if you're snapping at people, it doesn't really help anyone.
No.
And, you know, one of the things that I kind of, when I met the actors, which kind of, if you love it, you kind of take any excuse to do it. And I would never take advantage of that. I'm very mindful and respectful of that. So I kind of felt the same way with all the crew, and everyone. It's like, well, they're there because they love it or they want to discover more about it. So that goes a long way. And then we're also talking about just basic respect. It's not. And look, you get busy. Like, I know that I get a bit maybe short sometimes. Like, but it's not rooted in ego or. It's mainly because time is the enemy. You need to get a lot done really quick.
Yeah.
A good one is, it's classic on every film set where you get everyone on time really early and then nothing gets done for the first 4 hours because it takes that long to set up the first shot. Because you're waiting. What's really happening, I think, is everyone's meeting that day and they're getting into a groove and they got to find their way. What I try and do is organize that first shot the night before so that when people get there, start straight away. And then from there, it's like, well, you've already done that one shot. And then, but that's, really important to me is I just need to get that first shot done really quick. And then
Yes.
I can almost relax for the rest of the day.
You've done something.
Well, that first shot is important. It is. Yeah, exactly right. Because I've been on so many sets where nothing's getting done for the first 4 or 5 hours. And then they go, oh, we need to do this, that, and the other. It's like, well, you lost 5 hours on that first shot, man. Like, So, yeah. It's not... Look, filmmaking is... Well, we talked earlier about how tedious filmmaking is.
Yep.
But it's always been tedious. It always has been. Even though the technology is more accessible, filmmaking is a very tedious thing. So if you all know that that's what you're going in for, but it's a fun tedious. You have a good time.
It's almost like you're building an old-fashioned clock.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
And that's like my visual of a production. It's like all these little moving parts sort of with the sprockets and everything just sort of together, just spinning and making it and if you zoom in, you can't really tell what's happening because it's too detailed. If you zoom out, you see the beauty in this is going to be a great way to end this, and the beauty when you zoom out is everyone working together for the purpose of making that little hand on the watch move, tick, tock, in sync with time.
See, it's not only the orchestrating, getting everything together, film set running, but it's also, sadly, the most important thing is what the camera is saying. So not just the mise en scene of what's going on within the camera, but mainly also what's with the actors, them keeping the ball up in the air. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The ball up. So
that's the whole
the
scene
energy
right
so
there.
You can have all everything ready, and then if the scene is that it's two actors talking, but they are literally just two people reciting lines. It's a
bunch of people. Really, like everyone is doing their part.
Yes, totally.
And as a whole, it's the movie, but of course, it also includes pre-production, the planning, the post-production. Everything until it's like quote unquote in the can, right?
Yes, totally. And then when I'm just very mindful of the energy that's going on within the scenes. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And in terms of I actually think this may very well be a tangent, but I really think there's a lot to be said for just making things easier for yourself. So. I don't really use lighting rigs. I use natural light wherever I can. Because just the economics of... And that is such an important... I'm well aware of how important lighting is. But I think you really need to have a great operator, DOP, to pull that off.
Well, that comes,
and also
yeah,
your
that
time.
comes with experience when you know the natural light is good and it's
Yes.
going to really work for you, and you can make that work as opposed to spending 4 hours trying to light a room.
Exactly. And I heard a great thing, which is people losing hours lighting a shot when you should light the scene. This is somebody's opinion, by the way. So that, you should light the set, not the shot. And
then you got to wait. You got to wait for all the lights to cool down before you can strike them.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right. So it's... I believe that there's a lot to be said for just making things easier for yourself wherever you can. At this stage, lighting is something that I just try and catch naturally. And then
there's another thing. There's a little pet peeve that I have with lighting too, is that you can't just go into somebody's house and start plugging in watts and watts of volts of lighting.
Until they send electricity bill, yeah, totally.
Well, no, but you can blow fuses.
Yeah, totally.
In their house, so you have to be careful with that too, and that takes experience and knowledge that sometimes, especially in mobile filmmaking or with a smaller crew, if you don't really need it, don't use it.
Yes. Yeah, and I think, look, just use whatever you have at your disposal.
Yeah.
And that, I've learned so much from Madhouse.
I know. we keep going on into all these details, and I think, some of our listeners probably have, just like you and I probably did too, Ross, this grand illusion. It's not really an illusion, but this dream of being on set and being the director, right? And directing a film. And you have what you've seen on some of these, the making of, but they don't sit down and really tell you all the details and all the things that that can happen. And I'm hoping that by listening to everything you just said, and especially, that they watch Madhouse and realize how unique this film is, and after hearing how you made this possible, that they realize that you can have this, this idea of what filmmaking is, or you can actually make the film.
Yeah. I look, if you can do it, do it. And you don't need permission, by the way. You don't need anyone to tell you.
Right.
You can do it yourself. Like, you don't need to wait for someone to go, oh, look, here's this amount of money. I wouldn't wait for that. I would just do it. No. And that's, I guess you've probably heard that so many times by now. But
and I would say also make many films.
Yeah, and safely at the moment. It's very difficult. Like, I can only speak for what's in Australia, but it's difficult to get people together safely at the moment.
Yeah, but the thing about making many films is, like, as you're during safe times, that you're learning about the process, and you're learning about the people that you want to perform the process with, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
These are the people, they worked on 3 films with me. They did great on this, and they really got along with everybody, and I got along with them, and they, I definitely want this person to be in my next films, always.
Yes. Yeah, keep them close.
Yeah.
And
make a list.
Yes. Yeah, I did make a list.
Yeah.
And if you're friends and you become friendly, it's effortless.
Definitely. All right, Ross, what would be the last thing that we haven't talked about that you want to just so that we can end this episode without it being too long? What would you like to say to our friends who are listening to this episode?
Keep up the struggle. It's a really hard industry. Like, it's kind of impossible, but if you love it, it will serve you through all of it.
Hey, I wish you the very best of luck with your auditions. That I'm glad to hear that you're going through more auditions for being cast. I'm sure some of these, if not all of them, will come through for you. You're such a good actor, and you made such a great film for your first feature film. And I hope that winning the award helps solidify that you need to make more.
Yes, it sits on my parents' mantle, and it looks back at me going, make another one. Make another one.
As your parents are looking at you, not in our house.
That's right.
All right. Say goodbye to our listeners.
Yeah, goodbye, everyone. Thank you very much.